Welcome to the M2I Alternative Investments Chat, where we demystify the world of alternative investments and financing for entrepreneurs and investors alike. With these discussions, we hope you're more empowered to unlock new opportunities in your business or portfolio.
This is our first podcast, so there's going to be some bumps in the road, I'm sure, but we'll be figuring those things out as we go. So this podcast is supposed to be the premier platform for diving deep into the world of alternative investments. I'm Erin.
I'm Erica.
And whether you're an investor, a sponsor, or an advisor, these are the things that you need to know about alternative investments. So let's get into it. Today, we are keeping it super basic.
Very, very basic.
We're talking about alternative investments. This might be something that you're totally new to. Maybe you don't know what that is. We're talking about the very basic things that kind of make up this new world. So first, I'd like to start off with what is an alternative investment? Erica, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah. So I know that when we started this project, I had no idea what an alternative investment even was. I know about stocks and bonds and the stock market and what we see in movies and in the news, but I had no idea that there's this other asset class called alternative investments. So basically an alternative investment is everything that isn't the ones I just mentioned: the stock market, bonds, cash, things of that nature.
Exactly. You might have heard of, a hedge fund. That's one of the most common alternative investments that people kind of know about. Some other alternative investments are private equity, venture capital, real estate even, which obviously we all know about real estate, commodities and tangible assets like gold and artwork. Compared to traditional investments, alternative investments have fewer regulations from the SEC and can be quite illiquid. Do you want to expand on what being illiquid means?
So being illiquid means a lot of times, like if you have a stock, you can sell it right then and there. 2:00 in the morning, I don't want this anymore, get rid of it. When it comes to an alternative investment, sometimes it takes a little bit more time to find an actual buyer to purchase this investment. You can't just sell a bottle of wine in the middle of the night, especially if you bought it for a really expensive price.
Sure.
Or a piece of artwork or the sick Ferrari down the street, stuff like that. It takes a little bit more time to actually sell those. And also I want to just kind of touch on the point that traditional versus alternative, alternative doesn't necessarily mean that it's new.
Sure.
Or uncommon. In fact, two of the oldest investments, real estate and commodities, those have been around for a really long time. Everyone's been kind of investing in those for quite some time now.
Yeah. So almost with alternative investments, we're having a resurgence. We're seeing these things come back into play. When you think about a traditional portfolio, you hear 60-40, here what we're seeing now is adding in alternative investments to balance your portfolio and help with your overall profits and making it more safe, because if the stock market goes down and you have other things in your portfolio that can come into play and kind of keep you afloat, that can help you out in the long run.
Exactly. A lot of wealth advisors are actually advising roughly around 20% of your portfolio should be alternative investments now moving forward. You made a great point. If the stock market was to just absolutely collapse, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. So this kind of helps you not put all your eggs in one basket, which of course you always want to do when you're dealing with money and investments.
Yeah.
So how do alternative investments work? The answer to that is that each alternative investment works differently. There's not a one size fits all.
No, there absolutely isn't. And not all investments, especially in the alternative world, are meant for every single investor.
Yeah.
So you've got your very traditional like hedge fund. That's your most known alternative. And basically what they do is they pool funds from investors, and then a manager oversees that. And kind of the same for like private equity. Same, you're going to take pooled investments and a manager is going to oversee those. But most of the time you're taking a distressed company. You're trying to build it back up, resell it for the profit.
Right. Yeah. These companies might come in and bring in all new staff. They might completely gut the operation, but their goal in the end is to make it profitable, because they make money when the company makes money. So the actual goals are in line. So venture capital this is also a buzzword that people hear about, but maybe not know exactly what it is. That's also considered an alternative investment. This is where you might hear an angel investor, which is another big buzzword. Basically, these are people who have a lot of money and they are focusing on startup companies. Maybe they're trying to get a new idea off the ground. Maybe it's a new product, a new invention, and they are investing, hoping to help this startup get their product out to market.
Exactly. And I think venture capitalism is something like you said, we hear the most kind of in the news.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, I mean, a lot of people, when you start a company, you don't have the funds.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need people like those angel investors to come in and help you get it off the ground.
Sure.
So those companies are really focusing on launching this new product.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really cool. But something else that I really think is neat is a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of the same thing. You pool money together and you have stake in a piece of real estate. And you don't have to actually own the property, but you can still make funds like an apartment complex. Who builds an apartment complex? I had no idea. The storage units, those are crazy. I never thought of somebody needing money to build that.
Sure.
And so that's a great way to invest your money as well, especially in the alternative world.
Yeah. And it opens up doors to something like a commercial property that is so costly. Most people, you or I, are not going to have the millions and millions of dollars that it costs to build a commercial property like that. So this allows those things to be built and pooling money together from lots of different people.
And you brought up a good point, the you and I's. So when it comes to investing, we want to make sure that you understand. I know I didn't, what an accredited investor is. So some of these investments require you to be accredited. So what accredited means is that you have to have $1 million. I don't. And that has to mean that it does not include your home, your primary residence. Or you can have a yearly salary for the last 2 years and presumably the year coming up, 200,000 if you're investing solo. And now if you're with your partner, then that number bumps up to $300,000. And then lastly, they do give some educational backgrounds can kind of be considered accredited. Exactly. Special certifications. Basically, they want to make sure that you understand that there is risk,
Of course.
and it doesn't financially crush you.
Right. You can take that blow and you could recover. You're not going to be out of pocket and losing everything.
Exactly.
You're savvy and you have the capital to kind of back yourself up.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to talk about is where you might find alternative investments. And again, there's no size fits all. It's everywhere. You could find it through your advisor if you have a financial advisor.
That's a great way to go.
It is a great way to go. You're getting that, insight from somebody who actually understands those investments. So if you're a newbie, if you're new to investing, period, that's always a great way to go. You can also find them through online marketplaces. There's more and more of those that are popping up, and you can kind of browse some alternative investment options, get some info, and opt in. Also, if you have a friend or family member that is trying to get, raise capital for a business that they have, and you invest, that's an alternative investment.
You're absolutely correct.
So you might be finding out about these alternative investments through friends and family as well.
Most investors, most companies, that's actually how they start.
Sure.
First people you are going to ask for money is your friends and family, because you know them. It's a little bit more awkward to go ask a stranger for money. But like you mentioned, those marketplaces are great ways. And on these marketplaces, depending upon the type of offering that is on there, a lot of times smaller amounts can be invested. So you don't need that high, you don't need to be accredited. You don't need that high limit. You can invest some of them $5,000, $1,000, just depending upon what you have available.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if we think about art, we think about wine, you don't need to be accredited to purchase those things. You can, purchase wine, you can purchase art. So those sorts of things too, you don't need to be accredited, and you can get those more easily. Of course, there's the barrier to entry, which is the cost and the money, but you don't necessarily need to be accredited in order to invest in those sorts of things.
Yeah. So with those, you want to let's talk about the people who are actually involved in the investments.
Mhm.
So you have your sponsor.
Yep.
We kind of roughly talked about the person offering.
Mhm.
So the sponsor is the one who is putting up, they're the one who need the money.
Mhm.
So they're going to be on your platforms. They're going to be the one asking the friends and family.
Mhm.
Second, you're going to have your advisors. Your advisors are going to be those people who are advising on behalf of a client. Now, they make their money advising. So they want to make sure that you're investing in something that's going to be profitable because it
Yeah.
makes them profitable.
Exactly.
And then lastly is going to be, and I think the most important person in the entire thing is the investor in themselves.
Mhm.
It's their money. They're the ones who are going to either make or lose that money that they're actually putting up.
Yeah, and I want to touch on an advisor as well. They have something called a fiduciary duty, and the fiduciary duty means that they are legally bound to work in your best interest.
Absolutely.
They are not trying to swindle you. They're not trying to sell you something that they don't think works for you. Their goal is to help you make money. Their goal is to help you invest wisely, because they make money when you make money. And they usually earn it through management fees. But of course, if you're a client and they stray you wrong and they leave, they get a bad reputation. And also, they're not going to be able to collect those management fees on future business. So it's
Exactly.
in everybody's best interest that these people work with you, and legally they are bound to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think something that I wanted to quickly touch on too are ETFs, which have also been a big buzzword. This again just goes to show that alternative investments are at the tip of everybody's tongue, but nobody really knows exactly what they are. So ETFs are exchange traded funds. They're investment funds that trade like stocks. So this is actually one of the more liquid
Hmm.
versions of an alternative investment because you can trade them, like you mentioned, stock. If you want to get rid of a stock that you have at 2 in the morning, you can. Goodbye.
Yeah,
ETFs are similar to that, where you can buy and sell, trade them. So they're more liquid. These actually help open the door to alternative investments to many, as most alts previously only available to those high net worth
exactly.
individuals. So this kind of allows people to get their foot in the door with alternative investments. And that's just another version of alternative investments that you hear about, you see in the news, but maybe you didn't know it was an alt.
Yeah. So ETFs are great for your retail investor. Retail meaning you just kind of go in and you're like, oh, I like this company, so I'm going to buy something.
Yeah, shopping.
Exactly. Oh, this is my favorite store. I should probably own stock in it. Or like myself, I drink Starbucks every day. I should probably own some of Starbucks stock because I'm spending money to make money, right?
Sure.
But I love those. And like you said, it's a great way to get your foot in the door and kind of understand what an alternative investment is.
Mhm. And I think something just to, note, really, if you're going to walk away with anything from this episode, is that if it's not a stock, it's not a bond, it's not cash, it's an alt. So another version of that is a derivative, and that is a type of financial contract whose value is dependent on an underlying asset or group of assets. So that's
Yeah.
something tangible. And again, this isn't a stock, this isn't a bond, it's an alt. So if you're ever wondering, if you're watching the news and somebody's talking about something, just ask yourself, is it a stock? Is it a bond? And then you'll have the answer.
I love that.
We kind of already touched on accredited investors. I want to note that, we kind of said this, but I want to be specific. Accredited investors, that being an accredited investor opens more doors to you because of your ability to absorb that blow, because of potentially you're more savvy with the financial market. If you're unaccredited, that doesn't mean the doors are closed to you. So this podcast is talking to all those people: accredited investors, unaccredited investors, sponsors, everybody. So there's a little something to take away, little nuggets of wisdom for every single person.
I think you're absolutely correct there. And, with those accredited investors, and as you mentioned, those higher end, if you will, investments, they come at a high risk, but a lot of times there's a high reward.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them so wonderful to diversify your portfolio.
Yeah. And, attractive, because you're not tied to something typical like, the bank or the stock market. You're able to get some of these higher rates of return, 8, 10, 14 sometimes. It can sound like it's too good to be true, but really because of that kind of higher perceived risk, you're able to get more of that
Exactly.
money
And
back.
and if you are concerned about that higher risk and that too good to be true, it's a great reason to get a wealth advisor.
Mhm.
They know this market. They are here to assist. As we talked about earlier, they have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that you make money.
Mhm.
It is their job.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you will, but that's their
Exactly. There is
hopefully
never any
that's the
guarantee.
goal. Never any guarantee with your investments, but that is definitely the goal. The goal is to make money, and certainly you're going to. Well, you'll probably make more money than your money just sitting in a bank.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
So an advisor, since we've been kind of talking about that, the advisor can be a person or a firm. So you can have a single person that's an advisor. You can have a firm that acts as your advisor. You could go either way. And again, they make that money through their management fees. So if we're kind of shifting to more of an investor's perspective, if you're someone who's interested in alts and putting your money into this really wacky, wild market.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? We kind of touched on the, higher rates of return, and we talked about, how it diversifies your portfolio. Maybe we expand a little bit more about that volatility in the market.
Well, again, as we mentioned, the stock market, we've seen it crash before.
Mhm.
It could potentially happen again. So with those alternative investments, it kind of offsets that. As earlier, they take longer to sell. So you can actually hang on to that. Sometimes it means that their value will actually grow. So when you go to sell them, it's not the flip of a switch like the stock market is
Yeah.
at times. So and having a diverse portfolio, you can't go wrong.
Sure. We talked about the liquidity. We talked about how ETFs are more liquid and some of the commodities are going to be more illiquid. With the risk, that's why those returns are higher, is because they're higher risk. And knowing that, alternative investments have higher risk than these traditional type investments can be intimidating.
Extremely intimidating. But I think the question on every investor's mind is it worth it?
Sure. What would you say?
I would say absolutely. Again, no guarantee, but it's better than your money sitting in a bank
Totally.
getting nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And something that, someone close to us says a lot is, if you're not talking about alternative investments with your clients, somebody else is. And that's coming from
Absolutely.
the perspective of an advisor. But, they are becoming so much more popular. There's just a little bit of a barrier to entry, and it can be really confusing. So this whole podcast and us talking about this is trying to make that more tangible, more understandable for people.
Exactly. Because again, if they're like us, we learned how to spell alternative investment yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're on a new path, and it's exciting and it's fun. And I hope that we can explain, or at least attempt to explain, why this is a great investment.
Yeah, an option for sure. So just a couple things while we wrap up. Alternative investments, are they an asset class? Not exactly. They are and they aren't. This is kind of like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle's not a square.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So basically, they're different asset classes: private equity, real estate, infrastructure. These are all asset classes, and they are all considered alternative investments. So there's different asset classes that things fall into, and whether or not, again, ask yourself: is this an alternative investment? Is it a stock? Is it a bond? Is it cash? You'll answer. And then, are alternative investments considered securities? Certain ones involve securities, hedge funds, private equity, and REITs. But again, not every alt is the same. Not every alt operates the same. You can't invest in every alt the same way. You can't, work an alt the same way. They all have their own rules. They all have different things that they do. So it's with every alt that you hear about, there's going to be some background that you have to kind of learn about.
You're going to have to do your due diligence.
Yes.
And investigate.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of these offerings provide you with every ounce of information you need. You just have to dig and look. And sometimes that can be discouraging. But again, there's also those wealth advisors you can always seek out, and they can do the hard work for you.
Yeah.
And make sure that you have a great investment.
Yeah, exactly. So with taxation on these alternative investments, I just said there's no one size fits all. They're all taxed differently. So again, doing that due diligence, doing your research. If you are working with a wealth advisor, a financial advisor, they can help you know all the details about your alt, how it works, what tax season is going to look like for you. So again, that's a great way to go. You can also learn all of this stuff online. Obviously, there's a wealth of information on the internet, but it could be more it could be easier for you
Exactly.
if you utilize an advisor.
All right, so let's finish touching on one other little topic that we kind of already touched on. Where does an investor find these alternative investments at?
Yeah, totally. Like I said earlier, there are online platforms and marketplaces that are kind of popping up here and there. If you search alternative investment marketplace, you'll see some options come up right away. Also, if you have an advisor, they can help guide you in the way of alternative investments. You can ask them about it. I'm sure that they will have some things to talk to you about. And then also, you might hear about these from friends and family. I've even seen some alternative investments pop up on my Facebook. So now that you kind of know what an alternative investment is, I guarantee you'll be out and about in the world. You'll start seeing how common they are and how popular they are right now. You'll start seeing, oh, that's an alternative investment. That's an alternative investment. Erin and Erica taught me about that. So now you'll know. And it'll definitely open your eyes. The opportunities are everywhere.
Absolutely everywhere. In fact, your neighbor probably has a great invention that he needs some money for. So might want to ask around and see if you got extra money. I mean, I'll take it too, but if you want to have it grow, there's opportunities out there everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we hope this was helpful for everybody. Again, we're learning this whole world all around. So there's probably inaccurate information, but we're doing our best. And if you have any questions, hope you will like and subscribe, and we'll give you some more info next time.
Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for more insight on our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to continue the journey with M2I. See you next time.
The content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as professional, financial, or investment advice. This podcast should not be construed as an offer to sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy any securities. We strongly recommend that you seek advice from a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.